Good morning. It's Wednesday, halfway through the work week. I've been working on my sermon for Sunday, and we're going to be talking about God's radical grace. So this morning, let's take a quick look at Jonah. Jonah is the first lesson, or actually, Jonah 4. The story of Jonah goes like this. God came to Jonah and said, "Look, I'm sending you to Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrians. The Assyrians were some bad people, and they had done some horrible things to Israel throughout the years. Jonah, I'm sending you to Nineveh to call them to repent, to turn around, to turn to me." And Jonah's like, "Oh no, God." So he headed out the wrong direction. Well, you know the story of Jonah and the big fish, or Jonah and the whale, and how he was vomited up on the shores by Nineveh, and he walked into Nineveh, and he did what God told him to do. He preached, and then God did what Jonah was afraid he was going to do. The people repented. They turned around. They asked God for the forgiveness of their sins. And what did God do? God relented from his anger, and he spared them. And Jonah pouted. Jonah was mad because of God's unbelievable, radical grace. How do we deal with God's radical grace? God was so radical that he gave his only son to die for us and for all people, that all might believe, that all might come to faith, that all might be saved. That's God's radical grace. And as a professor once told me, grace is God's love in action. So we experience God's radical or extreme love in action through the forgiveness of sins, through all that God gives us, through his amazing love. And let us share that same love with other people, that they too may know God's radical love in action. Jonah wasn't happy, but Jonah did obey, even though he tried to run away from God and the mission that God had put him on. But in the end, God's will was carried out. The people did repent. Let us be messengers of God's radical love in action through our words and our actions. And we give God thanks for loving us so much that he gave his only son to die, so that all may believe and that all may not perish. Have a wonderful day.